Welcome to another episode of Doubl3Tap. Today we are joined by Toby Saunders, the co-founder and CEO of Cathedral Studios, who are currently building out Bornless, horror FPS. Toby, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me today. I know it's late for some of you. Been on long calls all day, so I appreciate jumping on. But yeah, I'm doing very well. It's a busy year. It's a good year, and it's now starting to become summer in the UK. So I'm smiling again, which is good.
Yeah, the best 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, before we dig in, disclaimers out the way. So this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It's not financial advice. The opinions shared by Alex and I are our own, and we may have investments in some of the projects or assets mentioned throughout the show. With that out the way, Toby, what games are you currently playing?
What games am I playing? Oh, I've been playing Outer Wilds. Have you guys heard of Outer Wilds?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a quantum space puzzle game, and it is 10 out of 10. Can recommend to anyone who's looking for like a couch game. Just been playing it on the PlayStation in the evenings. Really hard. I'm stuck. I'll ask you guys if you've played it. I'll get some tips from you after the show. I'm totally stuck at the moment, but it's good. No hand holding, beautiful music, cool story, great mechanics, awesome.
So I want to start by touching on like distribution and go to market and what you guys have kind of done there, because unlike many other Web3 games, you have taken I guess you could call it a traditional PC go-to-market approach, that being like guerrilla marketing for Steam, essentially.
Yeah, it's funny. It's non-traditional to traditional guys, and it's non-traditional to Web3 guys. So it's kind of still non-traditional, but it looks traditional to Web3 guys, even though it's not. Figuring it out, at least, yeah.
And you've been quite successul with it. Last I checked, it was almost like 150, almost 200 wish lists, which is a great proxy for like first day sales. So I wanted to kind of get some insights from you, steal the playbook, as it were, and kind of hear how that journey has been, and what are the sort of the key takeaways from your side.
Yeah, it was. I'll lay maybe a bit of the like groundwork for what the context of where we were, so you understand like what we were working with, because obviously every business, like there's only so much budget you have for go to market, and you have to kind of balance that against like what you're spending on product. At the time when we started building out our go to market plans, we had literally zero budget for anything to do with marketing, and so we were looking at putting every penny we had into product, and basically just making the best possible game we could make. And it wasn't the mentality of like build it and they will come. We knew that that's not accurate, but it was a strategic decision to say, can we elbow grease a publishing campaign and fund the best possible game that we've got? And it was a risk. We spoke to a lot of AAA studios who said, get a publisher. We spoke to a lot of infrastructure platforms who said, get a publisher. But we also spoke to some really experienced people in those companies too, who said, you don't need one. If you're not going to get a publisher, you best be willing to learn how to do it. So we built our go-to-market campaign for Steam around that fact of like, okay, we think we've got supporters and elbow grease. How can we use that resource? How can we kind of channel that energy and those fans? Because we had fans. It wasn't loads, but we had real fans who loved the experience, not the assets, like the experience. So anyway, we spent 9 months crafting a go-to-market campaign that really dissected the Steam customer profile, like what kind of games they were looking for. We spoke to consultants anywhere we could find them. Chris Sikowski is definitely one person to research for anyone who's listening who wants to learn about Steam marketing and sort of game marketing in general. He was a great help to us, and we built a campaign which was effectively targeting mostly small and medium influencers, where we created lists and lists and lists and lists of small and medium influencers on YouTube and Twitch who played similar games to the Bornless. And then during our Steam launch campaign, we had a trailer that we dropped at the same time as the store page launch, because we knew that those first 48 hours were really key in the Steam algorithm. And we had 100 people in a Discord. It was our friends, our family, our community members, all the developers. And we stayed up for basically 2 days. And we sent the trailer to maybe 10,000 people on just through these lists that we'd used ChatGPT to help us collect of influencers who played similar games to Bornless. And we sent them emails, no like batch emails, nothing sort of scummy. It was all like custom emails. We would find influencers and reach out to them directly. We would go into their Discord servers and reach out to their community, and it was all like real kind of interaction because there was 100 people doing it. It was all sort of quite personal. And yeah, we basically had built our marketing funnel around the trailer into the store page. And it was enough to trigger the Steam algorithm and break out onto the front page of Steam and onto the trending tab of the early access category. And it was all during sort of Gamescom at the time. And we managed to stay #1 trending on the early access tab all throughout Gamescom, which was a real feat. And we'd all made bets on how many wish lists we thought we'd get in the first 48 hours. And we were all way off, completely way off. We absolutely smashed our 6-month target. We smashed in the first 24 hours. Like, we were going to launch with the wish list that we got in the first 24 hours. Like, that was our target. It was about like 12,000 wish list was our target. And we just revved right through the starting lights. And then it was cool to see like a bit of a hockey stick. It does level out, obviously, because it's an algorithm and you need to keep throwing rocket fuel on the fire. So we've got new campaigns that are coming up, but we're sitting on about 220,000 wish lists on Steam at the moment, way beyond what we thought we would get.
I think the other thing I find interesting with like your early days sort of thought process was how you arrived at the genre that you were building for, right? So you essentially reverse engineered, if I'm not mistaken, what genre was like. Well, I mean, let's hear it from the horse's mouth, right? Like, how was that process for you?
Yeah. So this is one thing that I often say since we've done quite a good job in publishing on Steam, we get a lot of games approach us and say, how did you do it? Can you give us some tips? And you can't for some games because it's not the right customer. Web3 games especially, the art style and the mechanics are often not what a Steam user is looking for. It's a different demographic. And so understanding demographics and customers is still something I'm figuring out and our whole team is figuring out. And it's what publishers do. That's what they do, is they understand like customers. For Bornless, we knew before we even started working on it that we wanted to make a game on Steam. We knew we wanted to make a PC game on Steam, and we had a bunch of ideas. How can we turn that concept into a game? We looked at Steam and we saw first-person shooter was at the top of highest revenue genres, and we looked at what the Steam user liked. They like dark and gritty experiences. Horror was number 5. We looked at other horror competitors, and they're all kind of old now. Great games, but they're kind of getting on a little bit. And there's not really any horror shooters apart from Hunt Showdown, which is a great game, but it's only really that one. And at least the kind of multiplayer extraction style games. And there's also no noteworthy free-to-play games in that sort of category either. So we spotted the window before working on the game.
So looking far off into the future, you have plans to eventually transition somewhat to a publishing platform. Is the how have like the experiences of A, like reverse engineering that game design, and B, guerrilla marketing your way to the front page on Steam. Do you think that's replicable? Like, is the market still in the same place it was when you were going about it in that direction, or have things already changed so drastically that you're still adapting and figuring out new ways to kind of find that semi-viral success on a platform like Steam?
That's a great question. I mean, I think I do think it's kind of a chicken or the egg argument a little bit, because any publisher knows that they can't publish something that's not publishable, that can't do it basically on its own. And I think that's like if we might be exploring, publishing other games if we can really nail Bornless, right? I mean, it's going well, so it looks like we're going to. There is no secret sauce. There is no trick. I think it is game dependent and market dependent, and there's principles. I do think like influencer marketing is the kind of highway that you have to go down, and understanding the platform that you're competing on is key. So yeah, I think to come back to the question, I think you probably could replicate what we did with Bornless, because there's some foundational principles there that I think all games should follow, like influencer marketing and understanding platform. And I think elbow grease and supporters is something that is worth its weight in gold too. But really at the root of it, it's like, is your game designed to go viral, or is your game capable of triggering an algorithm, or have you got good trailers? Like, your trailer is your business card, so like, forget your website. No one cares about your website. Like, is it a good trailer? Are the screenshots on your store page dope? Those are really the critical things, like screenshots and trailers, which is one of the reasons why we spend so much money on product and not targeted advertising or paid ads or anything like that.
You mentioned that you chatted with publishers early on, Toby, and they gave you some tips. Some of the people that, maybe within these organizations are like, hey, if you don't go with the publisher, try X, Y, and Z. But obviously it sounds like, without like a ton of capital on the marketing side, you guys had to be pretty lean and pretty quick with your feedback loops in terms of, hey, what's the controlled variable? Is this hypothesis checked? Like, is this working? And then kind of back to the drawing board. I'm curious, like, what were some of the learnings you've had that you think could be useful for other Web3 devs?
That was so many.
Pardon me?
There's so many.
Many. What, like, maybe just the first like one or two that come to mind, like something that publishers didn't tell you, maybe something that has somewhat of like a Web3 slant. Just curious, based on like how recently you kind of done this.
I mean, look, I'm still early in my journey as well, so there's going to be people who might be listening who know more than I do as well. But the things that I've been noticing is brutal honesty is so hard to do. Like, you can get rose-tinted glasses so easily making games because you fall in love with what you're making, and get people to play it, and I especially encourage Web3 studios to do this. Get Web2 gamers to play your game, and you'll quickly learn that it's shit. Like, they're not gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. They're not gonna be kind. They're not gonna support you. Like, you'll get fans, and in Web2 we've got many fans who are supporting the absolute hell out of us. But you're gonna get much more realistic, critical feedback from a traditional gamer than you are a Web3 community member who's got a vested interest. So being able to just gut check yourself, do play tests, get people to play the game, get new people to play the game, do tournaments, run the game through competitive settings, get experienced gamers to come and play it, show it to experienced developers, like, put it in the frying pan as much as you can, and you will learn a hell of a lot. And one thing I always encourage as well is to get developers to play the game with the community. Don't just like put it out and watch what the community do. Like, have the developers go into Discord, play it with them, listen to them, go on streams, play it with them. Because then you just create like that direct association with a feedback loop. Like that. I mean, that's how we got started at Bornless. We weren't on Steam. We weren't on Epic. We had a Google Drive link and a Discord. And people would come into the Discord and download the game and play it with us and tell us what they wanted us to do, and we'd do it, right? I was going over our like early retention data from our playtests, and we were like, look, we've got all these great numbers. We're doing so well. All our investors love it. It's fantastic. Look at this retention data. And they were like, yeah, don't believe a word of it, because every single person who's been following you in this early stage of development is a different type of customer to the one that you'll be selling to when you launch the game. They're not the same type of gamer. There's gamers who love early access stuff, and they love development, and they love indie studios, and they're there for the ride, and it's like a community thing, and it's dope. And that's a really cool fan, and I love those people. But the million people that we're trying to appeal to is not that beautiful little network that you build over 2 years. The million people you're going to show it to are going to tell you that it's shit, and you need to go back to the drawing board, and everything you've done is shit. And they will, and they do for even the best games in the world. Like you just put your heart and soul in something, and they'll be like, "Yeah, it's shit." Right? So get those people to play it.
Over the past 2 years, as you've been building, you've kind of been in and out of the Web3 space, or the Web3 bubble, let's say. You have a live asset collection, like an NFT collection, and now, and like a Web3 game on Steam is kind of like this oxymoron, right? Because you either like make it because you've I don't know, cut corners or like avoided certain, like breaking certain TOS, or you get on there and then everyone just like review bombs it and it's like, this is some shitty NFT game, like avoid at all costs. And you've also like specifically pointed out how you've had this early golden cohort who's like people that tend to like early access games and indie developers, and I'm assuming a lot of them were funneled off from Steam. So I'm wondering if you have any, like, I don't know, maybe not horror stories, but like these sort of PIs coming into the Discord and like figuring out that you have an NFT collection.
Oh, that's a great question. So when we did our playtest on Steam over the autumn, we thought the worst, because, you know, we're in our Web3 community of developers, and we're working hard on making the best games we can. And the gamer, regardless, thinks that everything we do is shit, right? So we're obviously like petrified launching up to this playtest on Steam. And we had all these DEF CON plans of like, what are we going to do when, you know, we go viral, like Creator League for like whatever. And, you know, we just thought it was going to be the worst. And we planned everything out, and we had all these DEF CON and we still do, right? Those plans all still exist. And it didn't happen. None of it happened. Like all of these traditional gamers like jumped on Twitch and started playing the game, and they'd find out they had an NFT collection. They'd be like, I don't see any NFTs. And they'd carry on playing. And there was one moment where, and the occurrences were so small during the playtest that it filled my kind of like belief in humanity back again, because basically there was like a couple of comments of people being like, they're using NFTs, fuck these guys, this is stupid. And then but other people in the chat or the streamer themselves would be like, yeah, look, I don't really care, like this, I'm having fun, just enjoy the stream. And that was totally counter to what we thought would happen. So yeah, that was really nice. We do from time to time have, so importantly, in the primary Bornless Discord server, this is where the sort of two worlds were really colliding. Two different customers who don't really like each other in many ways, like being in the same general chat. And we thought there would be more collision. It's not really happened. I think that because we're building products that are somewhat siloed, they do connect, but they're somewhat siloed. It means that both customers can kind of enjoy what they enjoy, and they don't have to feel like their experience is being compromised by the other kind of customer demographic. And I think that is mostly working so far. I do think that you can't kind of you can't stop some people from hating your game because you're Web3. You kind of have to be just okay with that, and recognize that a lot of the gamers also don't care that other people hate the game that they like. Right? There's a lot of gamers out there who don't care if someone says the game they enjoy is shit. Right? And I think that's a super loyal customer and someone that I would be honored to build great games for, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do with Bornless is if we do get a moment where, we crack out and go pretty viral on YouTube after launch, and a bunch of famous streamers are saying, it's got NFTs, this is stupid. We'll still know that there's lots of people there who'll be playing it who don't really care. And might even be people who are interested in exploring it as well. Because there will be some kind of conversion. And it won't be, we're not expecting the conversion to be super high. But there will be some type of conversion. Which I think is cool. And we can show, like, ideally we can show a kind of new version of this type of game genre on chain to people who might be interested in exploring it. But if you're not interested, it doesn't matter. You can just play the game on Steam and don't worry about it. So yeah, it's a careful tightrope. Don't get me wrong; it's a very careful tightrope. And there's still it could still go horribly wrong. So I'll tell you if it does. You might know about it if it does. But for now,
GMs in the chat.
Yeah. For now, it's been fine.
I think that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Toby, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, those were some good questions. I got to stretch my brain today. That was nice.
The content of this video is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice. The views shared by Alex and I are our own, and we may hold investments in some of the companies or digital assets featured in the video.